Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here on time. We are going to start with the fourth session for today, Secret Sexploits of the Sea, Weird, Wild, and Wonderful Ways Ocean Life Reproduces. Forget what you know about reproduction, at least for the next hour. The ocean rewrites the rulebook, from devoted seahorse dads carrying their babies to the sheer scale of whale anatomy. Synchronized mass coral spawning events bringing fireworks to reefs and shark mating behaviors that are anything but gentle. This panel is going to reveal the surprising, strange, and fascinating ways marine life procreate. Equal parts science, storytelling, and jaw-dropping facts. I am delighted to introduce our host for this session, Sheree Marris, who is a marine biologist, author, and documentary maker. Sheree Marris turns ocean science into captivating stories. Known for bold conservation campaigns and media commentary, she brings science, storytelling, and a splash of sass to the sea. She's also the author of this book, Octopuses, Underwater Wonders. There are limited copies at the back, so if you want to grab one afterwards and maybe ask Sheree to sign it for you, you can do so. Please join me in welcoming Sheree to host this session and introduce our panel.
Thank you for having me. I'm a little bit chuffed because you don't know how happy I am to see that there are so many other dirty pervs who want to hear about how sea creatures have sex. And I love talking about it. So I feel as though this is like a homecoming for me to hang out with other voyeurs, which I absolutely love. And when it comes to love, humans tend to think that we're the greatest lovers, but in the grand scheme of things, we are absolutely vanilla. And the next guests are actually going to make you question what your sex life is all about. I mean, who has a sex life? None of my business. But I'm sure by the end of this, there might be a bit more sharing. Anyway, so I would now like to introduce the other incredible voyeurs and scientists who basically show us and give us an insight just to how wonderfully bizarre and wicked nature is under the waves when it comes to doing the no pants dance, as I like to call it. Mum doesn't like me talking about sex, so I say a no pants dance, and it makes her feel a little bit more comfortable and not so embarrassed about her little girl talking about sex. But anyway, here we are. Now, the first one is probably the biggest rat bag on the panel. Yeah, he knows who he is already because he's already approaching. And that's Richard Fitzpatrick. Come on down, my friend. I've deliberately set it up because in my kind of dreams, I really wanted to be a talk show host. Not really, but I thought I'd grab this opportunity anyway. So Rich is an absolute legend. He's also quite accomplished, thanks, mate, an Emmy Award-winning cinematographer. He's a research fellow at James Cook University. He's got over 15,000 hours underwater. So he's seen some of the most extreme and extraordinary marine behaviours that have never been seen before. He's filmed for BBC, Nat Geo, Discovery. But yeah, you're one of my favourite ocean voyeurs. And I think what I love about your work is that you bring all this really weird and wonderful behaviour to the screen. So you can show people just how wonderful it is. So thank you and welcome to the panel. And please, let's go rogue.
Okay, if you insist.
Yeah, because it could go anywhere with us too. Now, second, we have Mitch Brennan. Now, Mitch is a PhD candidate. Come on down. Mitch, feel free to do a pirouette if you like. Come on. Now, he's studying fish ecology with a focus on conserving the endangered white seahorse. He also leads the Sydney Seahorse Project, restoring wild populations through captive breeding through things like seahorse hotels, which I'm keen to know more about, and habitat restoration. Now, in Mitch's world, conventional roles are truly thrown out the window and things always don't unfold as we imagine. It changes our conventional stereotypes when it comes to sex and the man of my dreams, pretty much. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. Next we have, come on down, Dr. Jen Matthews. It's a bit sweaty, Mo. Is it really hot in here, or is this just a flush? Is it hot? Please say it's hot. Thank you. It's like my glasses are falling off my face.
Nemo
Gee
pause.
whiz. Nemo pause. This is what I mean, Rich. Yeah, that's good. Red flag, Rich. Red flag. So Jen is a marine biochemist and chemical ecologist at UTS. She decodes the invisible language that drives life in the ocean. Her work focuses on coral reefs, where she's uncovering the secrets behind one of nature's most spectacular events, mass coral spawning, the world's largest synchronised climax. Now, she does this using cutting-edge science, and she's hoping to help improve coral reproduction and resilience, giving reefs a better chance to survive and recover in a changing world. Do you have the coolest job in the world? Welcome. And last but not least, we have Sarah Han de Beaux, who is... Sarah, welcome, beautiful. Nice to meet you. Now, she's a shark researcher that leads Spot a Shark program and helps to monitor and protect grey nurse shark populations along Australia's coast. She's also a committee member of the Underwater Research Group of New South Wales, contributing to hands-on research and conservation efforts. Now, she brings a front row seat to the wild world of shark behaviour, including some of the ocean's more intense approaches to romance, which we're going to get into. Now, enough the foreplay. We're going to dive straight in. I hope you don't mind. I'll be gentle. Now, Mitch, I'm going to go to you because I have said that you research the man of my dreams. Do you want to explain that a little bit more to our audience of voyeurs?
Yeah, absolutely. So my research is primarily focused on the white seahorse, which is a seahorse species endemic to the east coast of Australia. But seahorses more broadly, they're part of a family called syngnathids, which is a really special group of fish that includes seahorses, sea dragons, and pipefish. And they have these amazing, unique anatomies. Everything about them is weird. When you consider that they are a fish, everything is strange. Their eyes move independently. They don't have a stomach. The seahorses have a prehensile tail that they use to hold on to their habitat. But the one cool thing that I think everybody knows about seahorses is that it's the male that gives birth. So
Did everyone know that? Just hands up. Who didn't know that? Great.
few,
See, there you go.
Yeah, fantastic. So seahorses and their relatives, sea dragons and pipefish, the males are the ones that carry the young.
That's sexy.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
so sexy,
awesome.
isn't it?
And what's really cool is that from a reproductive standpoint, and what makes them so successful in their breeding, is that the male carries the young in their brooding pouch. And whilst this happens, the female produces the next clutch of eggs. So these animals are actually monogamous. They form monogamous pairs. They stay together for multiple years and for their entire life if they can.
So that is true.
Yeah.
One partner for your life.
Absolutely. So the male is carrying and developing the young in their brooding pouch. Meanwhile, the female is producing the next clutch of eggs. The male will give birth. For our species, it's about 200 little tiny seahorse fry at a time. Other species, up to 1,000 to 2,000 seahorses. Little tiny guys, the size of a grain of rice, and they're fully formed seahorses. It's absolutely amazing to see. But this female is getting the next clutch of eggs ready. So the male gives birth. That same day or the next day, they'll come together and mate again, and she'll deposit the eggs in his brooding pouch, and the gestation starts again. So for our species, they give birth every 21 days, essentially, for the most part, over the breeding season. And that allows them to have 6 to 8 broods over the breeding season and in the summer months and produce hundreds and hundreds of little seahorse fry.
That is a busy man. That's like payback for all of the female population, I think, across all of the species. Wow, that is impressive.
That would be able to answer, is it more painful to give birth than be kicked in the nuts?
That's true.
I find seahorse birth traumatic because I was filming it for an Attenborough series and I've been up for like almost 3 days waiting.
Yeah.
Finally got it, and when I was backing it up, I must have passed out in the chair and flipped backwards and cracked my sternum.
Wow.
And then a few months later, Sir David's Oh, Richard, that was a wonderful shot. By chance, could we get a wide angle now?
That's fantastic. Now, Sarah, I'm going to go to you. Now, sharks have a bit of a bad rap. Is it fair that they have such a bad rap, or is it really a reflection of how they get down and dirty?
They have a bad rap. We all know that. But they're not actually that bad. And they've been here for 450 million years. But they don't have hands like us. So I guess when it comes to making love, they don't have these utensils. But they do have quite nice bitey-bities. And so, yeah, their sex is a little bit, it looks rough to us. But I think for her, she actually quite likes it, because in grey nurse sharks, which is the shark that I mostly study, she'll actually have about 5 gentlemen friends.
Oh, go, girl.
I know, and then she has pups from each of them inside of her. It's part of the survival of the fittest. Let's spread it around and make sure that the best one survives. So yeah, she'll have a few gentlemen friends. And
That's smart. I'm not here to judge. I think that is really smart. Ladies, take note. It is okay to sleep around. I give you permission.
so different from the seahorse. Yeah, not monogamous.
But also, is it true, because he bites onto her, that her skin is thicker than his teeth are long?
Yeah, absolutely. And she has to have that thicker skin because she doesn't always want his attention. So sometimes the male will be following her and he'll think, oh, yeah, this is the right temperature. I'm getting the right sort of look. I'm going to go in, and if she doesn't like it, she'll absolutely, they can spin and hit their own tail. So even though they're 3.3 meters long when they're an adult, they can completely in a moment switch around. And so she'll grab him, and then it'll be a bit of a rough and tumble. But if she succumbs and she likes it, then they'll actually just go into a trance, and it's actually quite cute.
Wow. So the biting, would that be like a lover raking their fingernails down your back?
Yeah.
I'm asking for research purposes only.
I don't think I would like it.
Well, again, not here to judge.
Yeah. Look, he doesn't have any hands. He has no other way to hold her. Yeah. So he has to grab hold of her fin and really get in there, which is why she needs the tougher skin to be able to cope with it. And then he can get his claspers in her. And and then they just go into a trance and just float down to the floor.
That sounds very counter to what we see in the media about sharks being this kind of really erratic kind of animal. So maybe we need to see more of sharks fornicating for people to go, oh, they're so cute.
But it's actually, that's one of the problems. Sharks are underwater, so unless you're there at the right time with a camera, and it's not like you can predict it. It's not every 21 days. The grey nurse shark females, they'll only want to do it every 2 to 3 years. So it's not very common. So I don't think you could stay underwater and hope for the best.
Wow.
Wolf Rock in Queensland is probably your best bet, and you could go there in the winter months. Probably November is a really good time to see the males coming in. But yeah, you can't really just sit there with a camera and hope. So that's why we actually know very little about how sharks have sex. A lot of sharks, we've never even seen it.
Oh, isn't that interesting? And because she doesn't want it very often, because that's really what it is, so that's why when he finds her, he's got to bite on and doesn't let go, because the opportunity is 3 years away. That's a long drought.
Yeah, and then once she's had him, she's, all right, fine, I'll have another few then.
Got one. What's another 2 or 10?
Yeah, I'll go for
Again,
Tim,
not
Peter,
judging.
and Paul. Exactly.
Wow, thank you. So, Jen, now your work is all about chemistry, and not the dating kind, it's the kind of invisible chemical languages that animals use to communicate. So with your field of research, corals and coral spawning, which is one of the most spectacular events, like how do the corals know how to start? And how do coral species know not to mate with another species? How does it all go down?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a little bit more majestic than that. So corals, there's hundreds of different species of corals, and many of them reproduce with something we call broadcast spawning. So essentially a couple of days after full moon in the summer months around kind of October, November, December time, at about 8:15. So it's a lot more specific than what you were saying about sharks, but all of a sudden, so you'll be underwater, it's all dark, and there'll be nothing happening, and the reef is just so quiet. And then all of a sudden, it's like an upside down blizzard, and it will just release all of these eggs and sperm up into the water. Everything mixes in the water column, and then over the next 4 days, these little larvae form and they start to swim to find a nice place to call home, and then that's what starts a new coral. So we know that the lunar cycles, the fact that it's 4 days after full moon, we know that it's temperature of the water, the fact that it's around October, November, that they play a role. But quite how they don't have miniature watches, so quite how they know exactly when to release, we really don't know. And we have a PhD student, she was actually meant to be talking yesterday, but unfortunately she was sick. But she's managed to capture the chemical that's released from corals just before they spawn. So we think we now know that there is a chemical cue, I guess in a way like a pheromone or a perfume or something like that.
A red light?
A red light, yeah, a red light, a little bit more risque, but yeah, a red light lunar, something that tells the neighboring corals, are you ready? Yeah, are you ready? Yeah, okay, let's 1, 2, 3, let's go. And they all go. And then there's, as I said, there's many species of corals, and lots of them will go at this one time, but because of genetics, it prevents a lot of cross-fertilization. However, it does allow for new species to form, and that's really important. So these mass coral called spawning events are really important for increasing the genetic diversity on our reefs. One colony can produce millions of tiny little babies. So that's millions of opportunities for new, more resilient corals. So it's really important in that way for the future generations and to rebuild degraded reefs.
That's incredible. Could you imagine humans trying to coordinate that? To be just still figuring out what kind of time they're going to arrive. They're an absolute nightmare. Now, Rich, you've seen all of this because you're a dirty perv and I absolutely love it. And you've filmed it.
I've had a grey nurse mate on my head. So I saw it way closer than anyone should ever see it.
Really? Can we actually talk, just circling back, speaking of the grey nurse, because they don't have one pecker, they've got two. Like, how do they know which one to use? And
I
has
can tell
she
you
got
because
two?
I have seen it.
And
very
has she
close.
got two holes?
No, there's one. Okay. If you think a male human's done with one penis, imagine a shark with
two.
So it's actually an extension of the paired fins. That's why they have two. And because when we are tagging sharks, one way we tell if they're mature is you grab the claspers and feel them. If they're calcified, like stiff.
I'm feeling a bit awkward, just so.
Generally, there's no consent either. But anyhow, so when the shark's coming up, if it grabs the female on the left-hand side, it's the right clasper that twists around and points forward to be able to go into the female. And just before it happens, when he starts biting on, you'll see the testes will flood underneath and will become swollen. So he's drawing water in, getting ready to
Gift her.
give a gift. And then when it goes in, the clasper, the tip peels back like a banana, and then these two calcified barbs lock out to hold the
So they've got
clasper
hooks.
in place. Yeah, and then
What
when
a
he breaks
prick.
free, he'll swim with this weird-looking clasper. It takes about an hour to get rid of the erection, and
Some people actually pay for that. Like
I know.
A pill.
But the little blue pills dissolve in the ocean, so it just doesn't work, for the sharks. But because they've got to line up this tackle, that's why the females are bigger than the females generally by head length. So when he grabs onto her peck, his tackle's there ready to go in, as it were.
All right. I was going to ask you about gender bending, but I'm also conscious of keeping up with the time and you having to go. So I'm going to... Do you want to tell us about gender bending? Give us a quick snapshot, because some creatures can actually change sex.
Yeah, so it's a very common thing with the fish world. So I've been doing this mega project for this new film coming up on Nemo. And so with Nemo, when you look at a clownfish, you've got the big one, that's the female. The next in size is the male, and the ones below are non-functional. And the female keeps the male from stress. And so she constantly goes over and nips at him, and you'll see him cowering and gets beaten up.
So just so you know, your partner, your female partner, if she's bossing you
you mean
around,
my
she's
wife?
actually doing you a favour.
Yeah,
She's keeping you all masculine. Is that what I'm getting there?
Exactly.
Write
And then-
that down, kids.
And then when she dies, then the male will grow in size and change internally and become a female, and the largest of the smaller ones will become the new male. And actually in this film, there's one pair of clownfish I've been following for 20 years. And unfortunately, during the last couple of bleaching events, we had 3 in a row, 2 from heat, 1 from freshwater. On the second heat event, she didn't make it. She had a little black, yeah, she was really old, but I was absolutely surprised by how fast the male grew in size to become a female. And he went through this real pale phase as he was growing, like the colours were stretching. And then, yeah, so he is now the new she. But this is really common in fish where there's normally only 1 or 2, because it's all about maximising eggs, and we learned about it in the seahorse. So if you've got 2 fish, you want the biggest to be the female, because she can fit more in. But if you've got a social group of fish, like the wrasses, the parrotfish, you only need the big one to be the male, and the rest can be female. So as soon as they mature, they can be contributing to the output of their species. And let's face it, how many males do we really need? Just one's enough to go service all the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if he dies, the largest of the she's becomes the new he, and we go inside.
It's like a harem.
It
So
is.
there's harems, there's sex swapping,
Yeah.
genders. I told you it was going to be
So
debauchery.
female, male in schools,
Yeah.
and generally male, female in just pairs of fish or very solitary fish that hardly ever meet.
Sounds like a bad Saturday night out, if you ask me. But anyway, now circling back, Sarah, I want to know, and I'm going to ask you to think about this. What is something completely wrong that we get about the animals that you study, like a misconception? And I'm going to start with you, Sarah.
Sharks are always, we think of Jaws. We think we put a foot in the ocean and they're going to come and get us. And that's just not the case. Grey nurse sharks they've got this really scary looking face. And they do have that white underbelly and they look like a proper shark. So, of course, they look terrifying, but they're not. They're really docile. And the only time they're scary is probably when they're forming in the mum's uterus. That's probably the only time they're scary. After that, once they're born, they're beautiful.
And that's because there's cannibalism, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sibling rivalry at its finest.
Yes, they eat their brothers and sisters. Yeah. It's happening in intrauterine cannibalism. She'll have 2 uterus, and she has, like I said, she had lots of gentlemen friends, and she's got different babies from many fathers. And yeah, it's pretty much the first one that comes out the egg and decides, yeah, I'm probably the biggest, and it goes around and eats all the others. And you can actually see it sometimes if you're lucky enough. They can swim past you, and it's really funny. I've seen videos where the female is really shocked. So she's just swimming around. She's like, oh, I'm so chilled. And then you see this boom on the inside of her stomach where one of the sharks is probably eating its brothers and sisters, and it freaks her out. And then you can see her being like, oh my God. She just flies off. So I think even she's a bit shocked by the violence that's happening inside of her.
That's pretty incredible. If you feel one, I'm going to give you a limit on words.
I hand delivered a grey nurse once, but the research program, I'm in the Queensland Grey Nurse Recovery Program, and the new research has shown that the females actually loop up into the Great Barrier Reef, into the southern section, the months or so before they give birth, to get that warmer water and get these babies bigger and eating each other faster.
And is it true they only mate around islands?
They mostly live around islands. They love coastal areas. They love gullies and sandy bottoms and overhangs.
But not around here, though.
We don't see them mating here. It's mostly, I'd say, from like Julian Rocks and above. So Julian Rocks is Byron Bay. That's the romantic city and above. Byron Bay, you see them making love. And then pretty much it's mostly north of that. So they do the warmer waters. The ladies like the warmer water. I agree with this, by the way. As a female, I love warmer water.
Excellent. Jen, what is the misconception that people get wrong about corals?
And I fell into this gaffe as well. When I first went diving, I had no idea what coral was, and I thought it was just really brightly coloured rock. And actually my first dive, it was during a bleaching event, and they were like neon pink, fluorescent yellows, bright blues. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like an underwater rave. It's beautiful. What are these things? And I came up from my dive and asked my instructor, and he said that these are corals. And that was it. I was sold. I thought, if something could look that beautiful when it was really stressed, imagine what it could look like when it's healthy. And what I love about coral spawning is it really takes what generally just look like rocks and makes them into the animals that they actually are.
Yeah.
And even the larvae, they swim, and you can see them swimming and feeding and finding a nice place to live. And it really makes you think, actually, this is an animal. And I love that. That's for me.
Who didn't know that corals were animals? Hands up. No shame. Hands up. Yeah, a couple of people. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Interesting.
That makes me
Thank
feel
you.
good. You know, yeah.
Mitch, what about seahorses? What are some misconceptions?
Yeah, it's pretty similar, to be honest. Seahorses are really recognizable. Most people, if you show them a photo of a seahorse, everybody will know what a seahorse is, right? And that's from little kids right through. Everybody can recognize them, but most people don't know that they are a fish. And understanding that they are a species of fish that's highly modified, they have these unique anatomies, and they've found these niches in which they're able to thrive. And part of this niche is the reliance on critically important habitats. So some seahorse species are reliant on one single type of habitat. So little pygmy seahorses only exist on one type of Gorgonian fan, for example. But our seahorse species, they use seagrasses and soft corals and other habitats like that. And they use this for anchorage, they can camouflage, and they eat from it as well. So they have these really unique anatomies that have allowed them to thrive for quite an extensive period. Seahorses have been around for about 25 million years. But our contribution to the oceans is that we're reducing the availability of habitat. There's a lot of habitat loss and degradation, and that's leading to a lot of these seahorse species being threatened now.
And is that why you create these? Just quickly, can you tell us about these seahorse hotels? Because it sounds very romantic.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, definitely. Seahorse hotels, they're a concept that was established by Dr. Dave Harasti, who's one of my supervisors. And the hotel, it's a pretty simple structure. It's a 1 by 1 meter metal cage that's placed onto the sea floor in areas that habitats have been lost or degraded. And quickly this metal will become fouled with marine organisms, so algae and sponges will start to grow on it. And in a short amount of time, the seahorses will check in. They'll find their spot in the seahorse hotels. And if it's established, they'll stay there for extensive periods of time. There was a seahorse that we were monitoring in a site in Sydney Harbour, Cobblers Beach, around the corner from us at Sims recently. And last summer, we had a male and his partner, so monogamous pairs again, and they were on the same seahorse hotel for the entire breeding season. And we saw that one individual male pregnant on the seahorse hotel on 4 separate occasions. So they're in the hotels, they're living it up in there. They're really getting together.
Some Barry White playing.
Yeah, there must be.
Some beautiful dappled light.
Exactly. So hopefully we're seeing that the juveniles that are born, some of them will start to recruit onto the hotels as well. So in that same site, towards the end of that breeding season, we found 3 to 4 juvenile little seahorses that had survived on the hotels. So hopefully being born from those seahorses that inhabited the hotels and then contributing to the population increasing from there.
That's fantastic. Rich, are dolphins really dickheads when it comes to reproduction? I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I hate them. Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. I
Shark
did call them a
is-
dickhead, but anyway.
Oh, they're nasty. The males are nasty. That's why the males are in different groups to the females, and it's just everyone goes, "Oh, dolphins." They're really nasty animals of how they treat the females and the young of the females. It's just not right.
Oh, okay. We'll leave it there.
Actually, I must talk about shark sex. One thing we are involved with at the moment
I told you I was going to go rogue.
is the Great Australian Shark Seaman Expeditions. And
All right, can you just say that again?
the Great Australian Shark Seaman Expeditions,
Okay.
GASSI. So we've got this program called ReShark that we're a partner in, and it's bringing sharks back to parts of the world where they've been obliterated. And the first species getting done at the moment is the leopard shark, and being reintroduced into Indonesia. And so leopard sharks do really well in captivity around the world, but they've all come from Cairns, where I'm from actually, and I'll be heading back there in 10 minutes. And the idea there is that they're an egg-laying shark, and then they fly the eggs over to Raja Ampat where they're hatched out, and there's mothers of sharks that take care of them and raise them till they're ready to go out into the wild. But we're worried about genetic diversity. So what we've started just in the last 2 years, just off Straddie, is we go down and crash tackle male leopard sharks down underwater and extract sperm from them, so then we can artificially inseminate the captive females around the world.
So it's like an underwater rodeo. Do you like grab the shark and put it in a headlock?
Yeah,
Like,
so
what are we talking?
you grab it by the tip of the tail and you tip it like a cow, and then the other divers, you pin it down and you give them a rub on the belly and on the nose because it calms them down, and then the vet will put a catheter up into the testes, pull out the sperm, and off we go. So we're into some pretty funky stuff with sharks.
Happy. That's a different kind of happy ending for everybody, isn't
Shark
it?
funk as well.
I went there, and I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. Now,
Have a look at Reef Shark. We've got some pretty intense videos on there about. You'll really see how the claspers work.
Getting back to human terms, I want to have a bit of fun, not as if this is not fun. If your species, what species, you pick your species, Rich.
Octopus.
But I want to give you, yeah, thanks, mate. I want to give you a species, and I want you to think of what their dating profile would say, and would you swipe left or right? Okay. Now, Mitch, I'm going to start with you. If your so the seahorse, if that had a dating profile, what would it say, and would you date them?
Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah, seahorses are, I guess they're generous, they're committed and loyal.
Or
I think they're in for it for the long term. So they're willing to, stick together. They actually do an amazing little dance together, called a courtship dance, and that's part of their mating routine. And they use this in the egg transfer, but they use this to establish the bonds as well. So they actually come together during the breeding season most mornings and do a little courtship dance just to re-establish that bond between each other. So I think, loyalty would be their big selling point.
that's a bit sweet. Now, Sarah, I don't know how tricky this is going to be for you to answer because it might be a reflection. Again, I'm not here to judge, and I think what you do is amazing. But what would your species, so just say with the sharks, what would your dating profile say? And would you swipe left or right?
Absolutely. So a grey nurse shark's dating profile, I reckon it would say something like social, because they actually are. They always hang out in big groups. So I'm social, I'm lovable, I'm misunderstood. Don't judge me by my tattoos and my big scary teeth. I'm actually a big marshmallow on the inside. I'm a night owl. I don't like new places. I don't like being touched. And I like my friends, but I don't like children. Yeah, they'd probably say something like that.
Okay, who would swipe left? Who would swipe left on that? Yeah, who would swipe right? My people. Fantastic. Sarah, you're the like a big, large, synchronised climax. Sorry, Sarah. Jen. God, I've got the wrong name now. Sorry. This is what happens. I go rogue and I'm just talking about sex and I get really excited and I forget where I am and someone has to slap me around the face. So when it comes to corals, what do you think the dating profile would say?
So the fact that they spawn just after a few days after full moon, I'd say probably they like the moonlight romance would be maybe one thing.
Yep.
The water can't be too warm, so maybe they don't like it too hot would be something. But corals are actually what we call a holobiont. So there's the coral animal, but the colors that we get in corals and most of the nutrients they get is from a tiny algae that lives in their tissues and gives them all the nutrients they need to thrive and survive. So I'd probably say it would be open to threesomes.
Oh, no, you would get some cracking swipes there. Could you imagine filming that, Rich?
Yeah.
Of course you would, you dirty perv.
I suppose mine would be male waiting for my wife to die so I can express my true inner self.
Nice one. Very good.
For the clownfish, that is.
Quick fire round. Who would be the worst to date underwater? What animal? Do you have a word?
I'm going to say Mr. Bojangles. He's a singular grey nurse shark.
Yeah.
Mr. Bojangles is really quite unattractive. He has...
Does he know that?
No, I really feel sorry for him. We've seen him over a number of years and it's just getting worse. So one of his male claspers seems to have at some point attracted a sea star. And then the sea star attracted some corals and some sponges. And then over time, it's now got a whole ecosystem hanging off of it. So he swims around and he's just got this hanging clasper full of like a whole world going on down there. So Mr.
probably-
Bojangles is probably the one that you don't really want anywhere near your bits.
Would that be like an equivalent to an STD or something? He probably needs to go get that checked, I think. Oh my goodness.
Is that why he's called Bojangles?
It's Mr. Bojangles.
Because he jangles. Like,
I don't know, but he's just called Mr. Bojangles. Don't judge him by his name.
That's fantastic. Any other examples of animals you wouldn't date?
Or deep sea anglerfish.
That's where I was going to.
Oh, is it? Yeah, big female, and the males are tiny, and they come up and they attach themselves to the female and join with the female, like the circulatory system goes through, and then he loses all his internal organs except for the testes.
The ultimate accessory he becomes.
That's right. It's just a hang on.
That's all you need. You don't need any eyes, anything. You just want their sperm.
Yeah,
It sounds efficient, practical.
totally.
Yeah, there's this research that came out recently because I'm fascinated by octopus. There's Dr. Wen Sung Chung from University of Queensland. He found the blue-lined octopus, which I've always banged on about how great blue rings are. I'm like, they're not scary, they're just misunderstood. The male of the blue line is 3 times smaller than the females. Now, the females have a tendency to eat the males after mating. So to make sure he doesn't get eaten, he actually injects his venom into her heart and basically paralyzes her so she can't move. So he can then do his thing, jump off, and live to see another day.
Doesn't sound like there's any consent in that one.
There's none. And I'm just like, you're on your own, mate. I'm not defending you ever again. That's terrible.
But how does he fertilize the female, Sheree?
How does he fertilize?
Yeah.
You talking about his dick on a stick?
Oh, yeah.
He's got a special mating arm, which is also called a dick on a stick, that he uses to transfer the sperm. And in some octopus species, this dick on a stick can actually detach and it hones in on the female like a missile. Fun fact, some females like to collect these. And when scientists first discovered them, and there was a female Argonaut, she stores them, as you do. And when scientists first cut open this female Argonaut, they looked and thought, what are these things? Are they parasites? No, they're just the male's bits. Same thing, depending on who you're talking to. So they do extraordinary things. Anyway, it's not about me or you. It's about all of us.
You can read that in Sheree's book. It's really good. Other males stick their arms up through like the siphon, the nose of the female. So it's like nasal sex, or
Yeah.
up your nose with a rubber hose.
Yeah, they do it. And the size difference, there's the blanket octopus where the female is 1,000 times the size of the male. It would be like me dating a guy the size of a walnut. So it's really nuts. Anyway, so getting completely off track. So for you, what has been the most memorable thing or surprising thing that you've witnessed when you've been underwater when it comes to the species? So grey nurse.
I've never seen them mating. I've tried. In terms of me, what I've seen, though, is the socializing. So they're not just stupids. The grey nurse sharks, what I've seen and I've found really fascinating is the respect they show for one another. So, for example, you could be on a dive site, there might be 50 sharks. The female comes through, the big mama, and they all move out her way. They're just like, ooh, big mama's coming through, and they move out her way. And she does not care if they're in her way. She'll just come through, and they all just part. So I find that really fascinating, that they're not actually this stupid thing. They're actually quite sophisticated and seem to have quite social
They know their
cues.
place.
They do, and the females don't often hang around with the young juveniles. You end up with juveniles in one area, you get the females in another area. So I think that they're quite, I find that fascinating when I've underwater and I've been like, ooh, that's a bit more than just a fish.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Hey, Sheree.
Yes?
I'm out.
Oh, wait,
Down the airport.
one question.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for this incredible voyeur before we go?
Hey, Sarah, I got some videos for you too.
This is really awkward. It's some videos. Okay, anyone got any questions for Rich before he leaves the building? If not, you can follow him. What's your social, Rich?
Biopixel Oceans.
Okay, get out of here. Safe flight home, you dirty
Later,
perv.
haters.
Thanks, mate. Alrighty. Now, the chaos, Kenise, that we're not together. It's terrible. Jen, what about you? What's one of the most incredible things that you've witnessed? Has anyone witnessed coral spawning? Yeah.
No. It's
Yeah.
magical.
Oh,
Right? It's incredible. And as I said earlier, it can be so calm, and then all of a sudden it's just like eruptions around you, and you get covered in it as well. So you come up from the dive afterwards, and it stinks. It really stinks. So yeah, you're covered in it, which is
And you're still swiping? You're still swiping right?
100%.
I love
But for me, I guess they've always been treated, the coral larvae have always been treated as passive balls that float in the water. And it's only really recently that we've found that they've got this behavior where they can swim themselves. And so my research is looking at ways to optimize the reproductive output of corals. And one thing we're doing is developing like a pregnancy vitamin to improve their nutrition, and also coral baby food. So we're trying to give them, not with little bottles, but we give them food in the water to improve their nutrition. And something we found that was completely unexpected, that when you feed them, they do little coral zoomies, and they go so quick, and they can swim much further and faster. So exactly like your kids, if you give them a sweet, like they go for it. And I think that was just amazing, an unexpected discovery. And yeah, it has great repercussions for coral science as well.
That's incredible. Mitch, what kind of shenanigans go on at the Seahorse Hotel that, we need to know about, or that has really surprised you with your research?
Oh, it's incredible to go out and watch them, especially, if they are in the hotels, or they're so closely associated with the habitats. You can go out and find them, and you can see the partners coming together and doing their dances every day, which is just fascinating to watch. But fortunately, I've had one occasion where I've seen a male give birth in the wild, and it's absolutely spectacular. They have these big brooding pouches. They do these contractions, the male's hunching over for minutes on end, really trying to get every little baby out. And you're seeing these little tiny seahorses out in the world. There's no care beyond that. Once they're out in the water, they're on their own. So you're seeing these little tiny, fully formed seahorses, size of a grain of rice, trying to find their way in the big ocean from there. So it's really spectacular to see it.
Wow. Great husband, shit dad.
Yeah, it seems so.
That's true. But if anyone has ever seen it, it's almost like they're sneezing and they come tumbling out like musical notes. Google it. Do yourself a favor. You won't have to go onto RedTube to see it. Now, I love all the work that you're all doing in terms of the bigger picture and conservation and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're really big, massive projects. For everyone in the room, I want to bring it back locally. What is there one thing that every person in this room can do? Because I think when we talk about some of the animals and the oceans as a whole, it can be completely overwhelming. And at times, I know even for me, it can be almost paralyzing that I don't have the capacity to actually make a change. But what can we do? What is one simple thing that we can all do? Start with you.
Be curious and take photos. So if you do go underwater, take photos, share them, put them on iNaturalist. There's 700 and counting fish species just in Sydney Harbour. I bet that nobody is studying the biggest proportion of that. So go on iNaturalist, be curious, and just start looking. I've never seen the sharks having sex with a grey nurse. I've seen others, but not grey nurse. I know what it looks like because people are sharing that, and that is helping science. So don't keep it on your digital drive collecting digital dust. Share it with the community. Be curious.
Great.
That's what I'd say.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jen, what's one thing we can do?
Yeah, I think there's actually a wonderful book about Sydney fishers that had just come out, and by John Sear. It was incredible. So definitely have a look at that. But just the same, I guess, is for corals. There are corals in Sydney, and we're starting to see on our doorstep. But Sydney is quite a precious place because it's something we call a biogeographic transition zone. And it means where there's temperate and subtropical waters meet. And we're starting to see an increase in the numbers of subtropical corals here, which is almost like giving us an indicator in real time on our doorstep about climate change in Sydney. And iNaturalist is great for logging where species are, but it's not so great for logging, hey, Bronte, this is Bronte. Sorry, I just wanted to introduce Bronte because I'm literally about to talk about her project, which is the Sydney Coral Project. So we know where they are, but we don't know where they aren't. And that's really important for us if we're going to try to assess climate change and understand how communities are shifting in our marine landscape. So with Bronte, she is going to be discovering, especially across the northern beaches, is her project. But we want to know in the wider Sydney area where these corals are, but where they aren't, so that we can predict where they might be in the future, and that will help give us an understanding of how our ecosystems are doing. So we have a dedicated portal for this called the Sydney Coral Project. And we are going to be also putting on the corals that the seahorses live on soon as well. So if you do go diving and you see a coral, take a photo, try and log it on there. If you go diving and you don't see a coral, you don't need to take a photo. But if you could tell us where you didn't, that's also really helpful for us.
Awesome. I love that sharing of knowledge. Mitch, what can we do?
Well, I'll back these two up. Those photos are absolutely valuable. We can only spend so much time in the water, but there's so many people that are in the water every single day. And we have a project set up on iNaturalist as well, that if you upload seahorse images, it'll automatically get pulled into the Sydney Seahorse Project. So that's really important. But beyond that, I think it's spreading awareness. I think one word that we come up with multiple times throughout this talk was misunderstood or misunderstanding. And people are apprehensive to protect what they don't understand. I think sharks are probably the biggest sort of advocate for that without the understanding of what these animals are and how important they are, people won't protect them. And then with the lack of voices, we can't get that through to the bigger, on a bigger picture. We can't get that through into legislation. We can't get that through into the decision makers. So it's spreading that awareness beyond the people that are just in this room that are ocean lovers and want to be here and want to learn more and protect. It's talking to all your friends, all your family, sharing information. If you are posting the photos online to iNaturalist, post it on your social media as well, and try and get more and more people engaged, because people can't protect what they don't understand, and we can't protect the animals that we don't understand either, even as scientists. We think we have a good understanding, but there's so much more that we can learn, and we're continually trying to learn this so that we can implement conservation strategies that do work.
Excellent. No, I think it's great. Education is such an incredibly powerful tool in getting that knowledge out there. Completely agree. Now we're going to have a quick fire question round because we went over time. Completely knew that we're going to do that. I could have predicted it. We're going to have one question for each of our panelists. You've got a question? Yes. Is there? Oh, we're just like on Ricky.
Yeah,
Go for it.
Respectful encounter with the grayness, Big Mama at Julian Rocks many years ago, and like you said, it just headed right towards me. I have a burning question. Is she a vegetarian?
No, she's not vegetarian, but she doesn't eat anything as big as us. So that's also part of the misunderstanding. She's actually mostly eating, she's a night owl. She mostly eats at night, and she just looks for little things that are sleeping, like little fish that are sleeping and stuff. Yeah, she's not a vegetarian, although she is one of the weirdest sharks in the natural kingdom because she doesn't go to the dentist. Other sharks and other rays, when they've been eating lots, they get dirty teeth and they open up their mouths like hammerheads do, and they get reef fish coming in and giving them a clean. Grey nose sharks don't do that. Very weird, but they're quite happy to swim around the ocean with algae hanging off their teeth. So there you go. Not vegetarian, but there is some vegetables going on in there.
Any other questions from the floor? Oh, yes.
Hi, this is for Mitch.
Yeah.
Sorry. When the male seahorse gives birth, out of the 21 you said come out, how many of those survive?
So the different species, there's between about 150 to 2,000 seahorses will be born. Yeah, the 21 days was the repeat breeding. Yeah, too many numbers thrown out. But only about 0.5 to 1% of seahorses survive, which is why they have many and why they have those multiple breeding occasions across a breeding season. So it's really low. And this is exacerbated in the current context that we see. So the way that the seahorses are able to grow and survive and then be able to reproduce themselves is that they find the habitat that they settle on. They camouflage on it, they blend in behind it, protects them from predators, it offers them food as well. And with less and less habitat, the survival proportion is decreasing even more so than 1%, which is extremely low to begin with. So yeah, we're seeing less and less seahorses survive, and that's part of the interventions or the conservation strategies that we're implementing, is to provide habitats, both the artificial habitats like seahorse hotels and natural habitat restoration that you would have heard about in some of the other talks today, to try and enhance that survivorship. And we're also leading a captive breeding program that releases bigger seahorses that are 6 centimeters plus into the wild, to hope that can add to wild seahorse populations and reduce that low survival rate that we see in the wild.
Thank you. Now we've got to wrap this up, so we're all going to be hanging around later if you want to ask some questions. Now we've covered a lot today. It has gone a little rogue, but I absolutely love that. It's made me question my dating history, that's for sure. We've spoken about synchronised climaxes, chemical love languages, gender bending, blokes that give birth, and some very questionable mating strategies. But what I love underneath all that chaos and weirdness is that there's something pretty special going on. The ocean doesn't just do things differently, it shows us what's possible, which I absolutely love. So I hope that if today has done anything, hopefully it's made you a little more curious, a little more connected, and maybe even a little more hopeful, because I like to think that if an animal, and I will circle back to you, Jen, if an animal with no brain, no eyes, can create the largest synchronized climax and create something that is so large it can be seen from space, what excuse do we have? I don't think we have any excuse when it comes to protecting the ocean. So I think that in itself is really inspiring. And also I think when we've got incredible scientists and researchers and communicators like our incredible panel, then, you know, the ocean is in such a great place. So I want you to now please join in thanking our Dirty Perv panel, which I've been so grateful for. And at the end, if you think that your love life feels complicated, just remember, my friends, it could be a lot weirder. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You could have Mr. Bojangles.
I love him. Sounds like some of my ex-boyfriends.